Now, Israel pledging to ramp up an Iranian offensive now onto its seventh day. Fresh attacks by Iran on civilian areas have injured at least 47 people. Our strikes coming at a critical time, with the Trump administration weighing the possibility of getting directly involved in the Israeli campaign. A rush to evacuate patients from the Soroka Medical Center in the south of Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu making clear he wants Iran to pay the full price. Iran denying that it targeted this facility, maintaining it was aiming for an adjacent military intelligence site.
The people we have left in the hospital are elderly people, cancer patients, people who need urgent medical care that cannot go home. And these people were targeted directly to be killed by a missile attack. There is no other explanation for this, and it's shocking that such a thing would take place.
Air raid sirens near capital Tel Aviv after extensive damage in two towns. Russia and China pushing for a diplomatic end to hostilities. Meanwhile, the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran has condemned the attack on a key nuclear site in the city of Arak, which houses a heavy water reactor. The IDF also struck the Natanz facility used to develop nuclear weapons. Local news sites say there is no risk of radiation. Iran's supreme leader has repeatedly rejected surrender as proposed by President Donald Trump. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warning instead of, quote, irreparable damage to the U.S. should it choose to join forces with Israel. And more, we have Trent Murray reporting from Tel Aviv and Kate Fisher from Washington, D.C. Let's start with you, Kate. We're waiting for what Mr. Trump might do next. U.S. media reporting that he did approve attack plans on Iran. What does it say about Washington getting directly involved in the Israeli campaign on Iran?
It certainly feels like that is increasingly likely. We understand that the president will be meeting with his national security team again in the Situation Room in the White House today as they weigh these plans. But he hasn't discounted negotiation completely, saying yesterday there was still a window for that. He's also said that he doesn't, well, we know he doesn't like to make decisions until the last minute, but certainly it looks like he is placing everything in the right places in case he does want to pull the trigger on joining Israel on this offensive in Iran. We should also note that Secretary of State Marco Rubio is planning to meet his UK counterpart David Lammy here in Washington today to discuss what's happening in Iran. And that could give another indication that the president is thinking he will go ahead with these strikes because it's likely that the US will need to use the UK-controlled Diego Garcia military base in the Chagos Islands if it is to use these B-2 stealth bombers, which is the key weapon that Israel wants from the US in order to try to penetrate the Fordo nuclear plant in Iran, which is based in a mountainside. It needs these very heavy weapons, which only the US has, hence the Israeli pressure on President Trump to get his involvement.
Well, Trent, let's bring you in. It's not just that Israel needs U.S. involvement to attack, as Kate mentioned, the nuclear facilities in Iran. It also needs to see to its own defense. We've got the attack in the south of Israel hitting a healthcare facility, a hospital south of Israel. Iran, as we mentioned earlier, saying it was not actually targeting that particular facility. What does an attack like this suggest about Iran's strategy in terms of reacting to this offensive from Israel?
Well, Sue, it does fall into the pattern that we have seen over the past 7 days of civilian areas continuing to bear the brunt of those missile impacts. This hospital was the largest health facility in the entirety of southern Israel. It's an incredibly important facility and it has now been shut down because of this direct hit. Now, what the Israelis are saying is that there was no military infrastructure nearby, and they are saying that this was a deliberate targeting of that health facility. But it, of course, was not just down there in Beersheba where that hospital was struck. We've also seen yet again a number of very serious impacts here in Tel Aviv, once again out in key residential areas. Significant destruction in both office buildings as well as apartments and homes. And it is what we have seen really since this war began. It seems the major metro areas of Israel continue to be the main target. Tel Aviv predominantly, but also Haifa up in the far north. And we are also hearing now that the Israelis are investigating potentially Iran using a new type of weapon in this latest wave, one that is effectively a kind of a cluster bomb, multiple rockets within the one missile. They are seeing some evidence that that is what's occurred, and that's why there's so much damage. But they're saying they're going to look into it and that the air defence systems are still working to intercept what they can.
Beyond beefing up its defence systems, its defence shields, how else has Israel responded to these attacks, as you say, expanding on civilian areas?
Well, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his Defence Minister today have said that they will be intensifying their attacks across Iran in response to this, and have even called out the possibility of targeting the country's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Now, he, according to the Defence Minister here, and I have the statement, has said that he will be held accountable and that he should no longer exist. That's the words of the Defence Minister. We, of course, know that the Israeli military operation in the skies across Iran is continuing throughout today. We've seen a number of heavy airstrikes reported in several cities there. The Israelis are still claiming to have complete air dominance in Iran's skies, having taken out much of the air defence systems of the Iranians, which is why some here are saying that's starting to lay the groundwork potentially for the US to get involved, having secured the airspace if indeed the president decides to do that.
Oh, Kate, you heard Trent there. Israel looking for US involvement, but understandably, there are lots of anxieties both in government and on the ground in the United States about getting dragged into another war in the Middle East.
Yeah, and of course, that's something that Donald Trump ran his presidential campaign on. And he said in his inaugural address in January, just January, that he would be ending wars, not starting them. And yet here we are with him in the Situation Room discussing whether to enter one with Iran. And certainly amongst his Republican Party, it's caused divisions that haven't existed up till this point in his second presidency, with many members of his kind of really devout MAGA base, prominent members coming out and saying they disagree with him, people like Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that's reflected in polling as well amongst Trump supporters. A majority of them do not want to see the US joining Israel in these strikes on Iran. And I think that reflects a kind of a long-held feeling in the US about not wanting to get involved generally amongst the public in foreign wars. Yet clearly, Donald Trump has changed his mind somewhat since January on how he feels about entering conflicts like this. But it is interesting to see this schism appearing within his very unified, until this point, voting base. And we won't know until we hear his decision what the long-term effect of that will be.
Oh, thanks for that. Trent Murray speaking to us in Tel Aviv, and Kate Fisher in Washington, D.C. As Israel and Iran continue to exchange fire, attention has turned to the Fordow nuclear plant. This is located deep under a mountain in Iran. Reports suggest only one weapon can destroy it, and that weapon is the GBU-57, known as the Massive Ordnance Penetrator. It's a powerful American bunker-busting bomb designed to destroy deeply buried targets, and has the potential to reshape this entire conflict. It's big and it's heavy. It measures about 6 meters long and weighs 13,000 kilograms. It's so heavy it can only be dropped by from America's heavy bomber aircraft. Its hardened steel casing allows it to punch through thick layers of rock and concrete. Unlike typical bombs that explode on impact, a specialized fuse triggers the blast deep underground. That maximizes damage to fortified facilities. The GBU-57 can penetrate up to 61 meters underground before detonating. Analysts say it can destroy deeply buried sites such as Iran's Fordow uranium enrichment plant. It's a fortified facility carved into a mountain. Israel does not have this bomb in its arsenal. The US is the only one that does have it. The US Air Force is also the only one that operates the B-2 Spirit jets, which are programmed to carry these bunker-busting bombs. You can visit our website, cna.asia, where you can find a full explainer on why Washington's bunker-busting bomb could alter the course of this conflict. Concerns we heard earlier from Kate, the UK might be drawn into the conflict if the US decides to strike Iran, as Olly Barratt reports.
It is a decision that potentially UK Keir Starmer is going to have to make at some point, particularly if those bunker-busting bombs are used by the United States, and if the United States wants to launch via a B-2 bomber flight from the Diego Garcia military base, jointly run by the UK and the United States. The official position from the UK government at this point remains that it wants to see de-escalation in the region. Also questions about the legality of UK involvement if we were to get to that point. Reports in the British media today suggesting that the UK's top lawyer, its Attorney General, has concerns about whether that would indeed be legal or not. The other is, of course, repercussions and what it might mean for British interests, British people in the Middle East and beyond if the UK were to become involved in any way really with supporting the American mission, or indeed simply using the UK-US military base on Diego Garcia for a bombing run. You would expect that that would mean that Iran would consider the UK to have been involved and therefore a potential target for repercussions from the government in Tehran. The UK response in recent days has focused largely around its citizens in the region. The advice at the moment has been for citizens in Israel, for example, to stay put and follow local advice, but we have seen the evacuation of some staff and families who work at the British Embassy in Israel. The UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy is due to meet with his counterpart Marco Rubio in Washington later on today. This will clearly be something that is very much at the top of their agenda.